All right, let's do this. Hey, I'm Brian.
I'm Bradley.
We decided to go live at the last minute here, being the breaking news today, if you haven't already heard, that Joe Biden decided to drop out of the race for
What?
president of the United States.
What? What?
Brad, did you know that?
Yeah, I was a little surprised myself because I actually was watching, believe it or not, I was watching Jake Tapper on CNN, State of the Union. And I saw Clyburn come in there and I'm 100% behind Joe Biden unless he decides not to run. And then I'm behind whoever the hell else it is. It
That's
don't
right.
matter. Sure enough.
Keep rolling, Brad. I'm going to check one thing. Go ahead.
All right. Yeah. So I'm thinking, wait a minute. You're totally committed to Joe Biden, but you'll be committed to anybody? I mean, you kind of give up the ghost right there, Mr. Clyburn. I mean, so in other words, it just doesn't matter who's on the ticket. It's whatever it takes to win an election. It's not about the people. It's not about even the policies that would help the people. It's about maintaining power in the federal government, but also power in the states, because certainly Democrats were seeing that the polling was looking really bad for Joe in the federal side, but that it was going to negatively affect many races in the state races, houses, and well, I mean, of course, Congress and the Senate for the U.S. side. But it really was shocking to see the sudden turnaround because I'm pretty sure that even his campaign staff didn't know what was going to happen until the last minute.
Yeah.
And they all went to bed last night. I'm pretty sure Joe was like, "Yeah, I'm in. I'm totally in. We are going to do this. How dare you challenge me?" And then most of them woke up this morning to find out, I'm out.
Yeah, exactly. How pathetic. And, you know, the funny thing is, the same people that made it impossible for anyone to challenge Joe Biden in the primaries are clearly the same people who turned around and forced him to drop out of the race, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
how does that make sense?
No, well, yeah, sure. I mean, they had polls that showed that 65% of, I think, Democrats wanted him to step out of the race. But that's not really who they listen to. They listen to the leadership, like I said, the ones that were supporting him. So
Yeah.
it's, if ever there was chaos in the Democrat Party, wow, this is it.
Yeah. And it's this all kind of kicked off with that first presidential debate. I said this, at the time, and then in the last podcast, that 55 million people tuned into that first presidential debate to find out
Mm.
if Joe Biden was still alive,
Yeah,
right? And they found out he was just 1 foot short of 6 feet
yeah,
under. And all the chaos broke out, right, in the Democratic Party. And then they all pretend they did this, oh my, look, all of a sudden Joe Biden's mental decline is rapid and it's happening very quickly. Who knew?
yeah.
Right?
Shocker.
Shocker.
Wow.
So I was thinking about this. I mean, think about this is where, as Bradley and I, we believe in the God who created the universe, the Father of lights, who was and is to come, that he's in control of everything, and yet there is the realm of man, and that he gives us free will. So you see this. There's a lot of backstory there. If you want us to explain it, we'll try to explain it at another time. But we believe that God is in control and ultimately will have his way. For the most part, he stands back and he lets it happen because he already knows the wisdom of man and the stupidity of man all at the same time. And yet sometimes God does intervene, right? So if you think about it, this first presidential debate was one huge dynamic that may have been planned, may not have been planned. I'm not sure. But sure enough, we have already talked about the assassination attempt on Donald Trump's life. There are people that don't believe it happened. They think it's
Yeah.
faked, or they're lying that it was a shard of glass from the teleprompter. The bullet hit the teleprompter and glass knocked out. It's so ludicrous, it's ridiculous. And the second thing they start mocking is that, well, that's ridiculous to call it divine intervention and something like that. Well, how would we define miraculous? To me, miraculous is a word that we as human beings use to describe something that we just simply can't explain with common sense or statistic or with logic and reason. And you've probably already seen out there, Brad, I know you've seen it. You've seen that people have done 3D animations and all kinds of replications to show that there is no way you could have planned a guy shooting from 130 to 150 yards away to where he'd hit Donald Trump's ear at the exact moment when Donald Trump turned this much. Like Ronnie Jackson, he's a representative. He's also Trump's doctor back when Trump was in the White House. He's been treating Donald Trump this past week. Said, I mean, it missed Donald Trump's brain by a quarter of an inch. So, fine. You don't want to say that's divine intervention. It's still miraculous. Right, Brad?
Yeah. Just a quick note to add into that non-belief or QAnon conspiracy theories.
Yeah. Totally.
I read an article from, I forgot the gentleman's name, but he was at the convention. He's driving back through the States, and he stops somewhere. He gets dinner, and he go ahead and he literally is looking for Democrats to try and chat with him. So he finds this guy, and this guy literally believes that it was that, Trump orchestrated this whole event, that it was a fake event. And he goes, well, how do you think that? He says, oh, because Trump's capable of anything. And I thought, and he thought the same thing, but I went a little deeper in my thoughts because I thought, no, wait a minute, wait. You're telling me, you think, as Brian described, how impossible it would be to create this scenario to play out the way it did, that Donald Trump planned that, then why aren't you voting for him? Because if Trump is so capable of accomplishing an amazing task like this, then why don't you believe him when he said he's going to lower your taxes, the economy is going to be great, your family's going to be safer, and you're going to make a whole hell of a lot more money? Why can't he do that too then? Right? Let's circle back. Right? The logic doesn't work. It just doesn't work.
Yeah. Oh, what should we should do, Brad? I was going to try and play this clip. Let me play this clip. Does everybody remember Jen Psaki? Joe Biden's former White House press secretary? Circle back, Psaki. So This is what happened. Let's see if I've got this queued up. We'll find out. If I don't, I'll have to re-queue it. But hang on. We'll try this here. This is a clip for Jen Psaki.
Number of Americans. We've provided critically needed care to 1 million veterans exposed to toxic substances. Past the first, thank you so much. I'm just going to read off the paper here. Past the first. We have breaking news here. President Biden has announced he will stand down from the race. I'm going to read the statement here on my phone. We also have Tim Miller, who's going to be joining us shortly. My fellow Americans, over the past 3.5 years, we have made great progress as a nation. Today, America has the strongest economy in the world. We've made historic investments in rebuilding our nation, in lowering prescription drug costs for seniors, and in expanding affordable health care to a record number of Americans. We've provided critically needed care to 1 million veterans exposed to toxic substances. Passed the first, thank you so much. I'm just going to read off the paper here. Passed the first safety law in 30 years, appointed the first African-American woman to the Supreme Court, and passed the most significant climate legislation in the history of the world. America has never been better positioned to lead than we are today. I know none of this could have been done without you, the American people.
Okay, yeah.
Together we overcame
yeah,
it.
okay, all right, whatever.
Yeah. Go away.
Oh my goodness, that is so fun to
Wow.
watch. So
Was that double clutch in the animation? Was that actually live, or was that a mistake in the video edit?
Well, there was a double clutch there in the edit there, so bear with me. I had to kind of reset that.
Okay. All right.
But-
I was just curious.
But it was, yeah, the very beginning you see there was a breaking news there, and it kind of hit her full. They literally had to hand her the piece of paper so she could read it. That's how raw it was.
Wow.
Anyway, so moving on, the picture in the background you're seeing here is from the fundraising event that everybody bragged about, where Barack Obama and Joe Biden were on stage. I think Jimmy Kimmel was hosting the event. And you guys remember this video, and the reason I came out of Jen Psaki's announcement to this is to say, when this event first happened, all Republicans, everybody else is saying, wow, Joe Biden froze up on the stage, and Barack Obama had to grab him here. So Barack
Guy
Obama
grabs him
turns to me.
and pretty much pushes him.
Yeah, he grabs his arm. He didn't just tap him on the shoulder. We'll wait for it here. He's
No.
like, come on, Joe, come on, Joe. He grabs his hand, gives him a firm pull, and says, let's go. And then he pats
Come on,
him on the
little fella.
back.
Yeah, we're
Just
gonna
walk
do
this
this.
way,
Come
Joe.
on.
It's okay,
Here we
we're
go.
We're going to get
Yeah.
some milk and cookies now. Full stop,
Yes.
Joe. Full stop.
Some vanilla ice cream in a cone.
Watch, even
It's
the curtain
backstage.
goes down. I mean, literally.
Huh. And that's the end of his presidency, right
So-
there.
Ladies and gentlemen, they told us that that was our portrayal, that Joe Biden froze and he had a cognitive, event where he basically had some kind of mental stroke or something, and Joe Biden had to help him off stage. I actually think that probably is what's happening. So what was their excuse? Their excuse was, well, no, you see, Joe Biden was getting a standing applause, and he was just acknowledging the applause.
Yeah.
Well,
Soaking it in.
right. So think about it. If that's the reason, then why did Barack Obama pull him off the stage? It's all about Joe Biden. So why would Barack Obama grab
Yeah.
his arm and pull him off the stage in that moment of glory for Joe Biden? Why would he steal his glory? Because he never
Yeah.
stole his glory. Joe Biden froze up. Barack Obama wanted to send a dog whistle to the Democrat donors and the Democrat Party that it's time for Joe Biden to leave the stage. Do you see it?
And I want to go back to the White House again.
Yeah, probably so.
Yeah.
Man, that is exactly what's happening there. Watch the curtain, and the curtain goes down.
Yeah. Wow.
Right? Am I missing something?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either. So why now? Everything was going great. The media was telling us that Joe Biden was tied or leading or in a statistical tie with Donald Trump, right? So they kept telling us, well, it's still close. He could still win the race. I mean, I think Friday when I drove home, Brad, maybe you heard some stuff too. NPR was still arguing that Joe Biden could win the race, right? It's not over. And yet, of
Yeah.
course, we remember Joe Biden, on that Saturday night, he was basically saying, there is no way that I'm going to get out of this race. It was reported that he was livid
Yeah.
with Pelosi and Obama, and that they were trying to push him out, and he was going nowhere. And yet, in the matter of probably less than 24 hours, he issues a letter. He doesn't even come out and announce it publicly. Didn't do it through radio. He just issues a letter on Twitter saying, "Yeah, I'm out." So, what do you think, Brad? You think they got to him?
Well, they obviously got to him, but two things. One, along the lines of someone wrote a letter to the media, not necessarily Joe Biden. And two, doesn't he owe it to the nation to give this speech publicly? Is it?
Yeah.
I guess it's not a big deal. It never really mattered to him to begin with, right? I mean, he wasn't really going to run for re-election. Guess what he's been telling us, right? Not. So I don't know. I think if you're an independent or someone who hasn't made up their mind yet, which is still kind of surprising, you could go either way. I just don't know how anyone else in the Democrat Party who's placed in as the president, VP nominated persons is going to get those people won over. I mean, what are they? Oh, wait, I got an idea. They could run on shrinking the government, paying off our national debt, tax rate cuts for everyone, and drill, baby, drill. And that's how Kamala can win.
Yeah, it's a total joke.
What do you think? I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I don't know what they're
She could just try to beat Trump at his own plan.
Yeah. I'm pretty confident that's probably not what's going to happen. You know, the thing
All right.
is,
Well, I'm just trying to come up with some ideas.
so when they, the thing is, let's look at this, kind of do a summary of what we just talked about. In a matter of 3 weeks, Donald Trump, in a matter of 3 weeks, Joe Biden, they have the debate, blows up Joe Biden's, viability for Democrats. We already lost viability for the rest of us. And then Donald Trump has an assassination attempt, almost dies, miraculously survived. And then instead of canceling the RNC, Donald Trump goes ahead with the RNC. And unlike other candidates, he showed up every night. Donald Trump was there every single night.
Yeah.
And then he announces his VP pick and then comes out and gives a 90-minute address, to the nation for the most part, articulating pretty much his entire platform and as well as sharing his story and what he went through in the assassination attempt. And then on the weekend, he vanquishes his political opponent who comes out and says, I quit on Sunday.
Yep.
Come on now.
Yeah.
You explain that. You can't explain that. Something bigger is happening. I think Tucker Carlson made that point. Something bigger is happening right now. And the Democratic Party is clearly trying to figure out what's happening.
Yeah. Well, I think they're going to be doing that all the way through January 2020.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
There's going to be a lot of crying and gnashing of teeth. Well, I'm not even sure what to say about all of it, but let's look at here's what I think.
Whoop.
The political version of the show Jackass. They're all going to be going after each other to see who can basically screw the other person up so bad that they don't get the nomination. Because, somehow Kamala herself has to win over delegates. Well, how's she going to do that without beating up Whitmer or Gavin Newsom or Mark Kelly? I've heard his name floated as a possible presidential candidate. So, there's no way they're just going to all go in there and say, vote for me, vote for me, vote for me, vote for me. And people are, oh, yeah, I like his argument, vote for me, better than him, the way he said, vote for me. So I'll vote for that person. No, they're going to have to beat each other up. There's going to be fighting behind the scenes. Hopefully some of it's in public because I'm here for it.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be a cluster.
And it is fascinating because there's a camp, including the Clintons, and I think Cory Booker has already come out and endorsed Kamala Harris to be, on the ticket as president. But
Yeah,
Barack
Clyburn,
Obama, Nancy Pelosi, and others, they have not come out and endorsed, and they're basically saying we think we should go through the process. They're not necessarily advocating for having an open convention, but they're clearly advocating that somehow, some way, Kamala needs to convince and or win over the delegates. So they're not. The Democratic Party is not unified. right? I mean, one of the reasons we went into this
Yeah.
week, and I remember my wife, Kathy, she asked me Friday, Brian, what do you think's going to happen? And I said, you know what? I have no idea. And the reason I have no idea is because the Democratic Party has no idea. And I'll harken
Yeah.
back to something that I said way back when here, when Joe Biden first took office. I told my wife this and a couple other friends. I said, the perceived chaos of the Trump White House will become a reality of chaos in all of our lives thanks to the Biden White House. And we
Yeah.
have come so full circle that now Joe Biden has brought chaos into his own party. Again, we're talking about
Yeah.
the guy, what I like to say is on this presidential debate that we had in the background here earlier, that what I like to say is the alley cat from Scranton, Pennsylvania escaped the basement of the White House. And now everyone's seen it. We all know it, and there's no going back. They know they hoodwinked the nation. Remember how Joe Biden said one of the only reasons he would get out is if the Lord Almighty told him? Well, you know what? Joe Biden's not listening to the Lord Almighty, because if he was, he would have heard the Lord say, you know what, Joe? I told you not to run in 2019, so cry me a river.
Well,
Right?
now, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Let's just all remember who the Messiah was to Democrats. Guy named Barack Obama. So maybe he did hear from God.
Yeah, maybe he did. You know what? I should just say this because we're kind of winging it here. Do you know that Barack Obama lost more House seats and Senate seats than any other previous president in modern history? 2 years in
Wow.
office. And
In the
he
midterms.
lost,
Okay.
right. If you go through his 8 years, he lost more House seats and Senate seats. One could argue he sort of paved the way for Donald Trump. So here he is now. I mean, look, I don't know if he's fully behind the scenes. It's not my reporting. It's not Republicans reporting. It's Democrats reporting that Joe Biden and Barack Obama, they hate each other now. They're extremely angry. The backstory is that Joe Biden wanted to run for president after, 2 years of serving as a Barack Obama's maidservant. I mean, vice president. But, Barack Obama said, nope, we're going with the lady in the pantsuits. And so they went with Hillary Clinton. Of course, she lost. And I don't know, maybe Barack Obama wanted the glory for himself of being able to anoint the first female president. We don't fully know. Maybe Clinton cut a deal with Obama back in 2008 when Clinton realized, what, he's probably going to win it. I better get on the gravy train here, right? So I kind of set myself up to run for president after Barack Obama. Maybe they cut a deal. And Obama said, I'm going to keep my deal with the Clintons. I'm not sure. The point is, there's bad blood between Joe Biden and Barack Obama and the rest of the party. And we're seeing that now where they basically started a drip, drip, drip campaign after the June 27th, debate debacle, and slowly sent out one person every day. And they kept, one of the things I want to get into, let me get this. What did we hear from them? Well, Joe Biden has been one of the most consequential presidents of our lifetimes. And it would be a patriotic thing for him to do. And we know that Joe Biden's always willing to put the country first. And so every day, one more Democrat would come out and go back, review this, everybody. It wasn't like a Democrat from over here or a Democrat over there. It wasn't like a prominent, Chuck Schumer or someone like that who came out. It was the bottom of the totem pole Democrats came out. The inconsequential ones came out. And then one by one, it started going up the hierarchy of power in the Democratic Party till like Joe Manchin came out, yesterday? Joe Manchin came out, or today basically, or yesterday, and said he needed to get out. I'm sorry. And I can't keep up track of the timelines. Everything's happened so quickly. So clearly, again, the Democratic Party just committed a soft coup of their own candidate. Isn't that amazing?
Insurrection.
Yeah, the Democrats, exactly, Brad.
Woo,
The
I said
Democrats
it.
just executed a political
Yes.
insurrection of their own candidate, who's the sitting president.
Yep.
I talked a
Uh-huh.
lot, Brad. Go for it. You got something to say?
Well, I mean, not necessarily. Well, speaking of Kamala, because most likely she would be the candidate. Um, it's interesting. She never won a single primary. In fact, she got out of the primary Democrat primary race before even one state started voting. Couldn't put together effective campaign, and they didn't have any funds to continue in the race. So that is the inept campaign person candidate that they're going to put to try and win a presidential election in 3 months. With, at this point, she doesn't have any money. I mean, there's some outside groups that are raising money, but I was thinking, wait a minute, I think the Biden campaign has about $90 million cash on hand, or however you want to say that. But he can't just give it to her. So he's got to find a way. He's got to find a way to do something with those campaign funds to give them to somebody else to affect the outcome of an election. Huh. That sounds familiar. Wasn't there a guy who was just charged and found guilty of 34 felony counts for misusing campaign funds? I'm just saying. I'm here for it.
Man. This whole
Yeah.
thing is just so bananas. And I mean, Trump has been Trump, but Trump is not responsible for what's happening in the Democratic Party. They did it to themselves. They hoodwinked us in 2019, claiming that Joe Biden was mentally fit for office. He was not fit for office. Everybody knew he lost his fastball. Donald Trump said it exactly right. And everybody could see with each passing month, another seam was coming out of that fastball. And that baseball was just unraveling faster and faster. We all knew he was unfit for office. There's no success. So it drives me nuts. One thing I guess I got off track, though, a little bit, Brad, how the Democrats, what was I looking at here? Got this page here. The Democrats are talking about, Joe Biden has been one of the most consequential presidents, as well as a dear friend and partner to me. Today, we are also reminded again that he's a patriot of the highest order, right? And what are the rest of? They're all doing the same thing. He's a patriot. He's most consequential president. He put the country first. They're all saying the same thing, which proves what? It's all a bunch of rotten baloney. How about that? I didn't use a cuss word.
Yeah.
It's all rotten baloney. It's just, man, gaslighting and propping up. They got caught with their pants down with Joe Biden. Well, they got caught with Joe Biden's pants down. And they can't back out of it. They can't call it a cheap fake. They can't call it misinformation. And the whole nation has realized, man, we've been getting played for 3.5 years with this administration and the Democratic Party. And the reason they so quickly turned on Joe Biden is because they screwed it up. And again, it's not about Joe Biden. They could care less about the patriot who put the country first and is the most consequential president. It's all about power.
Yeah. It's not about saving democracy. It's about saving democracy.
Yeah. Yeah, Democrat power. Totally, man.
Yeah. It's pretty pathetic.
I won't even go through
Hey,
the rest of it. Go ahead, Brad.
Here's another quick question for you. If Kamala gets the nod for the nomination, and God forbid she managed to win the election by, I don't know, some dead people's votes in Arizona, who knows, and multiple other states, will she pardon Hunter Biden? That would be a question I'd ask her right now. I'd have her commit to, will you promise not to pardon any of the Bidens, period. Bidens, plural.
Yeah. Well, so let's piggyback off that. and just talk about. Obviously, they're trying to push Kamala Harris. By they, I mean the Biden faction of the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
They're trying to push Kamala Harris, and people are floating these names. And I don't know if it came from, the Harris campaign or whatever. Talking about Josh Shapiro, governor of Pennsylvania, Bashir from governor of Kentucky, and Gretchen Whitmer said she's out. She's definitely not going to do it. Gavin Newsom. Oh man, dude, it was so funny. I was listening to is Mara Liasson on NPR News. I was listening on the radio today, and the announcer asked, "Well, what about Gretchen Whitmer? Or what about Gavin Newsom? I thought he was a potential candidate for vice president." And she's like, "No, no, no, it's not going to be Gavin Newsom." It was so hilarious. I mean, everybody hates Gavin Newsom. We're talking about the corporate media doesn't like him, and the Democratic Party doesn't like him. So I just kind of wanted to put that little jab in there to the disastrous, gruesome governor of California. But okay, so let me come back. But so, and then you were talking about Arizona. So they're talking about maybe former astronaut Mark Kelly, and senator as well, of Arizona being on the ticket as vice president, or Josh Shapiro from Pennsylvania. And my take is this. I think Trump is going to win Arizona. He's leading by, I've seen anywhere from by 3 to 5 points in Arizona. So that would be a huge number to overcome with Mark Kelly. Now, is he popular? Yeah, maybe so. But Arizona doesn't give you a lot of electoral votes. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but it's not as much as Pennsylvania.
I thought it was 10.
Yeah, I think you're right, but it's only 10. Pennsylvania's 20.
I think so.
So if Trump wins Pennsylvania, all the experts, notice the sarcasm in quotes there, all the experts say if Trump wins Pennsylvania, it's over. So I kind of think, and if you think about Bashir's from Kentucky, well, they don't win anything with Kentucky. There's no way Biden's going to win Kentucky. So I think they're kind of stuck with this Shapiro guy, who's only a 1.5, 2-year term governor. Don't you think?
I'm kind of at a loss here because I haven't heard anything from Mark Kelly. I guess he's still married.
Well, he did endorse her
I know
today.
He's not in space anymore. He
not,
endorsed Kamala?
Yeah. He did endorse Kamala for president today.
Okay.
So he's
Well, I
doing the
mean,
right
she could
thing
pick
there.
him as a vice president, right? She could pick him as a vice president. But
Right.
I don't know where that benefits them at all. She would need to pick Whitmer as a vice president, or vice versa, Whitmer president, Kamala
But
vice
I'm
president.
saying, Whitmer said today she's not in. She's not putting her hat in the ring. So right now, I'm pretty sure it's the Kamala Harris campaign is saying it's those 4 people I just mentioned: Mark Kelly, Andy Bashir, Josh Shapiro, or whatever the fourth one is. I can't remember the fourth one I just talked about. I think it's got to be either Mark Kelly from Arizona or Josh Shapiro, governor of the great state of Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Well, but I just believe, knowing at least what we've seen of Whitmer in public, that sure, she's going to say that now, and then she'll be on the floor at the convention, and some little no-name guy will be, "I nominate Whitmer," and everybody like, "Yeah," she'll be like, "Oh, what? Oh, who, me? Oh, okay." So she'll be in. Somebody will just surprisingly nominate her. That way she doesn't take any heat from anybody in the Black Caucus as far as trying to take over an inappropriate DEI move by Whitmer.
Yeah.
But in the end, she still gets nominated, and then she just shockingly decides, well, but only because you people want me.
Yeah.
That's the Whitmer I know.
You want to close it out, Brad? You got a closing thought you wanted to get in there?
I just, okay, so my closing thought is kind of what I've already said mostly. How does anyone think that the border czar who did nothing, and the person who has had multiple top staff quit her vice presidential staff over the last few years because they hate her and she's a horrible manager and she doesn't want to do any of the work. She never got won a single delegate or even got one vote practically. She got some votes in the primaries. How does anyone think that she's going to be able to put together, operate, and raise enough money and convince the American people that they should vote for her? I mean, honestly, I think the Democrats are going to need like 90 million votes to beat Trump in this election. Anything less than that, I don't know. I don't know how they can beat him, because I think Trump's headed to 85, even close to 90 million votes.
Yeah. Yeah, the idea that Kamala Harris can fail her way into the presidency is just ludicrous. You said it kind of took away, made a lot of the same points I was going to make. She got as many delegates in the Democratic primary in 2020 as you and I did, which is exactly 0.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
She didn't even make it. She was dropped out, done, toast. That's how just unacceptable she was to the Democratic Party. She was not even in the running.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, instead of Whitmer or Newsom or somebody else, Joe Biden picks Kamala Harris to be his vice president. Everybody's like, oh, okay, well, historic. Okay, great for you. Identity politics. There you go. Whatever. And she's done absolutely nothing, Brad. I'm literally repeating what you just said. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows all she does is cackle and spew out word salads. That's pretty much all she has. Nothing to her track record. But even more so, Joe Biden was supposed to be the moderate. He was supposed to be the nice guy who would unite the country. And instead, we're more divided today than we were 3.5 years ago. And now they kicked Joe Biden, and a political insurrection of the Democratic Party, removing their own candidate for president. And now they're going to put
forcibly
the least likely person who's basically failed herself into the vice presidency. And they want us to believe that that failure should become president. It's ludicrous, man.
Yeah.
I'm here for it, man. The next, 106, 107 days, it's going to be just unreal. We didn't even get into the legal machinations of how they're going to transfer money from the Biden campaign to a Harris campaign or to somebody here, or what the timeline is. I mean, they brought the chaos on themselves, which brings me right back to the Bible verse I've quoted so many times, and that is, do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A president or a Democratic Party or a Republican Party will reap what they sow. And the chaos we see today in the Democratic Party is the harvest of foolishness and tomfoolery, and the way that they manipulated and tricked us into believing that Joe Biden was a moderate, or even more so, that Joe Biden was actually even running the country. We know he is not running the country. And if he is, that's even more frightening.
Yeah.
All right, Brad. Well, let's wrap it up. We'll probably be able to do another one tomorrow because something else crazy is going to happen. Who knows?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm Brian.
I'm Bradley.
That's Cosmic Reckoning. And remember, think right to live free.
To live free.